Rick English is the stunt performer who doubled Colin Firth in the first two Kingsman movies. Well, today we have him on our show to talk about filming these movies. We focus on the church fight scene and the bar fight scene from the Kingsman, the Secret Service, and how technology has changed how a stunt performer works. Rick is a four-time Taurus Award winner, which is pretty much the Academy Award for stunt performers. Hi, this is Dan
And Tom,
of SpyMovieNavigator.com and our show, Cracking the Code of Spy Movies. And we are so happy to have Rick English here.
thank you so much for being on our show.
Yeah.
No, thanks for asking me.
Rick, we're honored to have you on our show today. You're a legend in the stunt world, and we're looking forward to this conversation.
Let's get into your doubling Colin Firth.
That was great.
Movies that you did, right? And let's start, I guess, probably with your most famous scene. I mean, you won the Taurus Award for this. Is that church fight scene in Kingsman: The Secret Service?
Right.
And so you doubled Colin in that scene, and he's a little, and I don't mean this derogatory, he's a little un-Tom Cruise-like in that he lets you do your job, but he still wants to do some of the action himself, right?
Yeah.
And so if I've got that right, then how do you figure out what's going to be him versus you?
Well, that kind of changed as we got into prep for that movie. Even before Colin came in for the first time, we knew who was on board. We knew who was playing the character, and we shot the previs. So previs is the pre-visualization. I'm sure you guys know what it is, but just for anybody that doesn't, these days we tend to shoot a version of the movie before we shoot the movie. We tend to shoot it in a sound stage just with boxes as the background, and we'll mark out the area that we're going to have on the day and build little props and stuff, and we'll kind of go through everything to get the formula right for how we're going to shoot everything on the day, and to make sure the choreo is right and it fits into the space that we've got, and that all the performers know exactly what they're going to be doing on the day, and to make sure everything's going to look right, and even just practice camera angles, what's going to work well. And so we were doing that, and we got the whole kind of previous shot and everything. We showed Colin, and when he first came in, he was very much of the opinion, he said straight away, I've never really done any fighting for movies except for the one in the fountain that everybody remembers, this fight that he did, which was like it was like a joke fight in the movie. It was meant to be two extremely non-physical guys kind of punching at each other and stuff, and it always gets brought up as a bit of a meme almost kind of thing these days. So he said that's kind of the extent of my my movie fight history. And so he was determined that he's like, look, I'll do little bits and pieces, but basically I want you to do everything, is what he said to me originally. But then we did a couple of months worth of training with him, and he really kind of warmed to everything and really enjoyed himself. It was something completely different to what he'd done before, was going through all these fight moves and rolling on the ground and throwing guys around, and a lot of the gunplay and all that kind of thing. And he really got into it and really enjoyed himself. So it meant that on the day we were able to use, as I said before, a mixture of myself and him. So we would both do the same sequences, and then they would kind of put a blend of the two of us together for the finished thing. And but he's aware, he's super aware that we have a job, and that he has a job, and that we're trying to help each other out. We're not in competition here. We're both playing the same character. It's just I'm doing some of the physicality, and then he's doing the acting and stuff. And I'm always quite careful when doubling actors that I have to remember that it's their character.
Yes.
I'm just doing the physical part of their character. So I always try and check with them, we're going to do this. What do you think about that? And it looks a bit too much like this or whatever. And we can change everything,
It's interesting.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, we're all making the same movie, and like I say, we're not in competition, and it's not like I'm trying to make him look bad. On the contrary, I'm trying to make him look good. What we from the end product is for people not to even think that I exist, but they're just watching this one character, which is Colin, and he just goes through this whole fight sequence seamlessly. We don't want to be seeing, oh, that was definitely a stunt guy doing that. We don't want to break people out of the illusion and we want to keep the suspension of disbelief there so that people can just enjoy the movie for what it is.
Yeah. In that scene, then there's a bunch of different stunts and things that happen, and it's made to look continuous.
Right.
And obviously it wasn't. How long did it take to film that scene?
A couple of weeks, actually.
Wow.
It was a long time. I think it was 2 weeks filming in the end, but a lot of preparation went into it as well. It's funny that you know so much about the fact that there was cuts and stuff in. I mean, I guess if people were to think about it, then they would realize that there obviously has to be cuts in that thing. But yeah, it was always designed to play out as one continuous thing, and just the journey of this character through the church, just dispatching literally everybody in there, and just keeping it as one continuous shot. So yeah, they used a lot of cool tricks that I really wasn't aware of the existence of. And we did it in the previs, the same thing. We used the pre-visualization, shooting it before we ever got to location and got to the shot. We shot it in the sound stage with cardboard boxes as a background and props that we made. And they practice these blends. So sometimes it would be, one of the characters gets thrown across the camera and it would black the camera out for one frame. And then when he comes and the flame, and the frames open again, then we're into the next sequence where this time the guy might have a wire on or something. It's that whole thing of having to prepare what's coming up next, and keep as few cuts as possible. But I think it ended up with about 60 or 70 cuts in there, and they're all hidden pretty well. But I say so, and in that way as well, we could change between myself and Colin. So if there was going to be something that he could perform pretty well and we wanted to see his face and really put him into that sequence, then he would be in there for a couple of moves and stuff. And then as soon as it got to him getting thrown against the church organ or something like that, then obviously we've got a wire involved in there and we've got a bit of prep for that. And so we would put a quick cut in there, cut back to me getting smashed up or whatever, and then back to Colin. It was a lot of fun. And the coordinator on there was a guy called Adam Curley, who's again a really good friend of mine and a great stunt coordinator. He's very, very switched on, very methodical, and he had to be for that. He had to plan exactly where each character was, just so he didn't break any continuity of background, because the last thing we wanted to happen was to get all the foreground action right, and then there's guys jumping around all over, and was just messed the whole thing up. So
the choreography was just brilliant. I mean, and I suppose it was a tremendous challenge to create that and communicate that to all the actors and stunt performers and so on, and to execute it. But you said it was 50 or 60 cuts. It's like,
yeah, it was. And but then
brilliant.
It was Brad Allen was the second unit director on there, who was obviously part of Jackie Chan's stunt team. He was the only Westerner in Jackie Chan's stunt team for a long time, and he's an absolute perfectionist. I'd worked with him before on Kick-Ass. He did a film called Kick-Ass years ago, and we did actually a fight sequence in there which was also played out as a one take kind of deal. It was in the warehouse. It's meant to be watched through like a teddy bear sitting on the on the shelf with a hidden camera in it. And so we played the whole thing. It was with Nick Cage beating up a bunch of guys, and the whole thing played as a one. And then funnily enough, when we did the Kingsman, this main fight sequence on there also was going to be playing as a one. But Brad's an absolute perfectionist, and I really loved that about him, to be honest. It was hard work, but if he wasn't 100% satisfied with something, we would go again. I think we had a couple of shots in there that were 28 takes or something like that, because it wasn't right. And so we did it again, and we did it again, and we did it again, and we did it again. And you thought you were never going to get
Yeah.
But, all right, so there's two things in here that I wanted to ask you about, because I think both of them were wire work that you had to do. And one was when you go flying over the pews and kind of go across the aisle. I think that probably was wire work. And then when you went into the organ, that had to be wire work.
Yes.
How many takes did that take? And that had to hurt.
Oh my God. You're right. They are the two elements in there that used wires, and I'm very I'm very impressed that you managed to pick up on that.
I
But
actually watched this whole scene frame by frame.
Yeah,
believe it
yeah,
or not.
yeah.
I'm one of the weird people, and so I
wow,
actually
I mean, it's amazing.
frame.
oh,
It's just
that's great.
amazing.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, no, yeah, there's the first part of wirework that you're talking about is there's like we used to call it the tic tac. It's like the pews are all kicked over, and so we kind of step bop on them and then jump across to the other side, taking one guy out and then falling on the floor, get back up, shoot another guy in the face. And that was kind of one little sequence on there. And so yeah, so that has to play just as a single part. We put the wire on, film that one part. I think we did that one, I don't know, we probably did that 7 or 8 times at least, just to get the look of it right. You want it to look like not, you don't want it to look superhuman,
Mhm.
but then you don't want it to look like nothing either. It had to be quite a dynamic kind of move across there. So it was on the edge of not needing a wire almost. It was just going to help hold myself, the performer, up a little bit longer than natural, just to give us a little bit of better and more dynamic flight. The other one was yeah, that one definitely hurt.
The organ.
I did get hurt in that. Yeah.
That had to hurt.
Yeah, what the way it was designed, it was like Colin's character jumps over the altar, and literally as he lands, they wanted this big guy. He's called Zdeněk. He's a Czech stunt guy, and he's a big dude. He's got to be like 20 stone, which is
Wow.
I don't know what that is to you guys, nearly 300 pounds probably.
Wow.
And so as I literally as I hit the floor, they wanted him to come in and literally steamroll me into the organ, and I literally fly out of the back of the shot and hit the pipe organ there, and then fall to the floor before the next piece of action. And yeah, so we did that on a wire. And what happened on the first take was he just made well, between the two of us, we just made a little bit too much contact. And so what ended up happening was as I landed and we came and contacted each other, I got tipped backwards too much. And so I hit the wall with the back of my shoulders, and my legs went over my head, like I tacoed myself, we say. So you like folded myself in half pretty violently. I think my feet probably hit the wall of my head, and I just literally folded in half and fell to the ground. And I knew I was hurt straight away. I was like, oh, that sucked. And because people always think, oh, it must be a soft wall, or it must be this or that. And to be honest, we did make softer or safer versions of the pipes and stuff, but it's still against a kind of plywood wall with scaffolding behind it. It's still a pretty solid object. So yeah, we did that the first time, and then I had to try and pretend like I wasn't hurt, so because I knew we'd be going again. And but I was struggling. My back was pretty hurt, and I was kind of struggling a little bit. And Brad Allen came over and he said, "Are you good to carry on?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm good." And he's like, "Can you do what we need you to do?" And so I said, "Look, if I can jump over the altar, then I can do the rest of it." And so he kind of stood there and with his arms crossed and was like, "Okay." And so I'm trying to get up, and I managed, and I hopped over the altar, and I was like, "Okay, we're good to go." And so we went again. I think we probably did only three times or something like that, and it was okay. But it's all part of it. It's a physical game, and you get injured sometimes. And unfortunately, if it's during filming, then you just have to try and carry on and just get through that as best you can. So
Wow,
Thanks.
that's crazy stuff.
Yeah. You had mentioned, Rick, earlier, the facial recognition element of this, and when you were doubling for Colin, a lot of that was used then, right? And during those scenes.
yeah,
And is that typical now?
it is now. It's I tell you, the first time I'd really seen it, I think, was on maybe Skyfall. When we did Skyfall, the guys all had dots on their faces. All the doubles had dots on their faces, and it was the first time I'd really seen this this thing where they didn't care about the stunt performer's face being directly into the camera, because they knew they were going to composite the actor's face on top of that. And then yeah, the same with the Kingsman. Like I say, Brad used to say to me, the second year director, Brad Allen, used to say to me when he was watching playback, saying, "See here, see where as you turn around, you've got your hand across your face. He's like, open it out. I want to see Colin's face there. I want to put Colin in the sequence." And so I had the dots on my face the whole time, and it was hard to get used to. Performing like that, and you almost had to think of yourself as the character then, and get out of these habits that stunt guys always had of hiding their faces and having their back to camera, and and doing that, and just perform as yourself, and just whatever happened kind of happened. And then it's pretty much every production now is works that way. The doubles will be wearing the dots and stuff on the face for tracking markers, so that then the CG guys afterwards can match it up and put the actor's face in there. But that was the first time I'd seen it. So I guess Skyfall was about 11 or 12 years ago. It was probably only about a year or so before we did Kingsman. So it came in all of a sudden for me, and then it just ended up being every movie after that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna really get geeky on this. Okay. As I said, I went through this frame by frame. Can you turn your head to the right?
Can I?
Can you turn your head to the right now on camera? Okay.
Yeah.
Now your ear looks a little different than Colin's. Okay, his left ear and your ears are more symmetric, and his left ear, there's a part of the ear called the antitragus, which is on the hard, it's the bottom of this. I had to look that word up, right? And on Colin, it's a little bit bumpy on his left side, and his right side is smooth. And on yours, they're pretty smooth. And so going through frame by frame, there were a few points where I could say, "Oh wait, that's Rick. That's not Colin."
Oh my God. Okay. All right.
So if you really want to get into it, you can.
There's always one shot that I always see in there, and I know that it's my ear. And it was actually in the pub fight. It wasn't in the church. It was actually in the pub fight right at the end, where we open the umbrella and hide behind the umbrella when the guy's firing the pistol. And that's looking over my shoulder, and I see it every time, and I'm like, I know that's.
Oh, hey, look at that.
I think I had a lot of piercings when I was young in my ears as well, and even Brad Allen called me out on it. He was like, "How many piercings did you have in your?"
Oh
you
man,
could see it on the camera, and I was just like, "Damn, doing close-ups on my ears again."
All right, I bet you didn't think we were going to be talking about ears.
No, but I'm very impressed at the depth of investigation that went on with this. And
well, if you're gonna spend time talking to us, we should do our homework, right?
That's very cool.
Now you're a little taller too than Colin, right? You're a little bit taller.
He's actually quite a big guy, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think we're about the same height. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because I saw a couple of pictures of you guys next to each other, and you looked a little taller.
Yeah, actually, one of you is 1.87 and one of you is 1.88 meters. So it's very
close enough.
Yeah, I think I'm 188. I think
Yeah.
so. Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah, I have a centimeter on him. Okay. Need to slouch a little more. I've done that before when you're next to actors. Sometimes if you're a little taller than them, you tend to stand with your legs a little wider apart and sink down a little bit. You don't want to flag these differences up. You don't want to end up losing your job or anything.
Yeah, I mean, those scenes were brilliant. Anyway, they were terrific, awesome. And we wanted to ask you one more thing. One of the bones of contention now, of course, in the U.S., especially that's with the actors' strike ending, the writer's strike and all that, the use of AI and how actors will be paid in the future and the impact of that. And so besides CG and facial recognition things we're talked about now, how do you see AI changing the stunt performer world?
It's really difficult to know. I mean, ever since I've gone to the register and into the industry, people have always been saying, "Oh, your job won't exist in 5 years. Everyone will be replaced by CG." And but for me, like I was saying before, I feel like demonstrated with the way the Bond movies went when they went all digital and a lot of CG kind of stuff in there. And then as soon as you brought a human element back to the stunts and everything. People liked that and respected that, and really well received. And I think people can still tell. And for me, it's like the attraction in motorsports. It's not just that it's fast cars or fast bikes riding around a track. It's the fact that there's a human being putting it on the line, and that's what you're watching. And there is an element of danger. Nobody wants anyone to get hurt, but you want to see people pushing themselves. And that's, a big part of the attraction of it for me. And it's the same with movies for me. I want to see real people doing real thing. You can watch cartoons and you can appreciate that as art for what it is, but it's a different thing for me. And I like to see real people do real things, and I think a lot of the audiences are kind of similar with that. But saying that, I think it is going to end up changing elements of the job, as the CG kind of thing has, and sometimes it's good for us. We can have elements of safety in there, and they can erase wires and they can erase crash mats and stuff, and we can have elements of safety in there that you wouldn't have got away with before, or that you'd have been able to see. You'd have had to shoot around it, and these days we can say, we can leave that in, we can take it out in post kind of thing. Just changes a few elements of the job, but I think the job as a whole hopefully will always be there. I mean, for me, I always liked watching Jackie Chan movies, and I like to push him what he's doing. And then I equally liked to watch the outtakes at the end, where I saw, damn, it doesn't always go right, and he really was, he really was putting it all in the line, and for in the name of getting this shot and bringing this vision to life. And hopefully other people look at things the same way that I do, and we can continue trying to push things physically in the real world, and then use the new technology just to enhance that and to help that and make it maybe even more creative, but keep the real people for sure.
Well, one example of that is in Kingsman: The Secret Service. It's a really short scene where Professor Arnold dies, and then you jump out of that window and that explosion happens.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's practical of you jumping through that window. I assume that explosion was more CG, but it really worked because somebody was somebody being you was physically flying through the air through that window and out, which was hard to do that well with CG.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's still some things. They have all these crazy, modeling engines and stuff in the computers that have obviously taken thousands and thousands of pieces of data and assembled these, these movements and everything. But I still think you can almost tell a human's movement. It's the same with the Spider-Man movies and stuff. The close-up stuff was all done practically, and then as soon as it got into the big swinging, there was just something became a little bit unnatural about it for me. It just took my eye kind of away from it being real. And the one in the Kingsman, exactly. We used a sugar glass window and a breakaway window, and then I really went through the window and into the wall on the other side and fell, and then they enhanced that with a big lot of CG fire afterwards. And like I say, the two things together actually didn't take people out of their
it works. It absolutely works like that.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I appreciate that. And that's exactly what happened with that. And I think that is a good use of that stuff. I mean, that building as well it's in central London. I'm sure they wouldn't have the permission to blow the windows out of that thing and have a big explosion like that into that historic. I think it was one of the colleges or universities or something in central London, and this building's like hundreds of years old. I'm pretty sure. I'm sure we're barely allowed to take that window out and put the other one in, let alone do a massive fireball out of the window.
Let's keep the fire out of the real world.
Yeah. I'm sure they did. I think in the Living Daylights they did the same thing with the Stoner Mansion, the Stoner Manor. That right. They changed the windows before they blew them out, and then restored the real ones later because they didn't like the idea of blowing the real ones up.
No. Well, when they did the the Joker blowing the hospital up in the Dark Knight, that was real. That was a hospital that was getting demoed or whatever. It was a huge building that was getting demoed. There was only one take at that one, and yeah, it was incredible. But that was all real as well. It's crazy when you look at what used to go on and stuff practically, and then these days you almost expect it to be CG. Certainly in more of the streaming platforms I expect that they maybe don't have the same budgets or whatever as the movies, and they tend to they would CG something like that rather than put the preparation and the effort. And it's really, if they can tell the story in the same way, then I think they're always going to go for that kind of option these days, unfortunately.
Yeah.
You have a Instagram reel of in Kingsman: The Golden Circle, where it shows the magic behind the meat grinder.
Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah.
And that's actually one where you kind of needed to do it CG. It wouldn't work practically.
Yeah.
I would think so.
Yeah. That was a lot of fun, actually. That was the fight in the kitchen. Yeah, I think
the diner.
Yeah, that's a beautiful scene.
In the diner, that's right. Yeah, and I think that was actually the visual effects company that put that reel out there, and then I kind of reshared it because it was myself and a couple of other performers in there, and it was really interesting because sometimes you don't really understand why you're doing these things, or I don't know. It's hard to visualize what they're going to get from that until you see how it's all put together in the end. But yeah, that was again a blend of myself and Colin. So myself and a stunt performer. I think he was on a wire, and we had him suspended above this meat grinder, it was essentially the casing, but it was empty inside. And then we kind of lifted him up and on the wire, and then kind of dropped him in there, and then it showed how it was kind of overlaid with the the grinder kind of operating, and his body kind of coming out all minced up on the other side.
Yeah, that's good.
But
right, so anybody watching this video, I'm going to show you the scene from the movie, and if you want to see this magic behind the scenes, go to Rick's Instagram site.
Yeah.
It's Instagram.com/Rick Stunts. Yeah.
Rick Stunts.
And you've got that there, and it's fascinating to watch, as long as you don't mind the movie magic showing you how it really works.
Because I think people, I appreciate people looking at my stuff, and I realize that I often want to show people this behind the scenes things, and that was the same when the Batman movie came out. I had so much stuff that I wanted to share with people, especially even with the Batmobile and stuff, the big jump in the Batmobile through the fire and everything. Again, I thought people are going to assume this is CG, and it was 100% real and 100% practical. No fire added, nothing added. It was all 100% in camera. And nice. I think people don't often realize that, but I also don't want to, like you say, I don't want to break the magic of the movie and start sharing this behind the scenes stuff too soon. I want people to enjoy the movie for what it is, and then if years later they say, "Oh wow, that was this," then that's kind of cool that way. So it's not always the most up to date. I'll often come up with stuff that we did sort of 7 or 8 years ago, so people have had a chance to watch the movie and for what it was, and then afterwards kind of appreciate what went into.
Well, that was what what you're saying there is exactly why I did not like Mission Impossible.
Yeah,
because they showed us all that. Here's all this stuff.
Too much ahead of time.
When you see that motorcycle go off the cliff, the first time you see that should be on an IMAX,
right?
Not on your computer or on your phone with them. Oh, look at how they did this, and then you see it in the movie.
Well, we went to the theater.
A little delayed, but I do like seeing it.
We went to the theater to see the movie, and as a preview to the movie, they showed that. It's like, what are
So
you
even if you
thinking?
hadn't seen it, they were guaranteeing you'd seen it before you saw it.
Oh my
Yeah,
God. It's
I
like,
didn't really think about it until you just pointed it out there. But yeah, I didn't think about that with Mission because, well, obviously I'd seen that stuff before. A lot of my friends were on that movie and showed me it literally the day it happened, kind of thing. And we were aware of all the prep that had gone into it. And
yeah.
but yeah, it can kind of, I don't know, it can take, spoilers are cool if some people want to see that, but a lot of people don't. And
Right.
I'm not a big one for spoilers either. I try and see if it's a movie I really want to see, I try and see it before anybody else tells me about it, or
Yes.
I don't want to discuss it. I don't want anyone to tell me, oh, wait for this bit or that bit. I just want to watch it all myself, and then you can tell me what you like afterwards. But until
Yeah.
I've seen it, yeah, I don't want any spoilers on anything really.
Okay, this has been a tremendous conversation, Rick. It's enlightening for us. It's enlightening for our listeners as well. We really appreciate it. That's fantastic. This has been great. All right, that's a wrap. We want to thank Rick English for joining us today. You are really a legend in the game. We enjoy your work and have enjoyed this conversation immensely. Thanks, Rick.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you, Rick.
Thanks for having me. It's been fun talking to you.
Fun here as well. This has been Dan
And Tom.
of SpyMovieNavigator.com and our show, Cracking the Code of Spy Movies. Please subscribe to our show on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Thanks for listening. We appreciate you spending time with us.